You're listening to the Good Question Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Our goal is to make each of our guests exclaim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. Because when that happens, it means you, the listener, may be inspired to learn more beyond the interview and to ask great questions yourself that lead to new insights. In this podcast, we cover historical and current anthropology, comparative religion, and history. Welcome, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Good Question Podcast. My guest today is Kevin Hughes. He's the author of SOCIOMOM, Good versus Evil. Is morality objective or a product of circumstance? Kevin's an award-winning consultant with a Fortune 5 company. He calls himself a recovering optimist and a mental health advocate. So I think it's going to be a very interesting call. So welcome, Kevin. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate you having me today.
I see the background, you've kind of had like a huge change in circumstances. It says you grew up in poverty. It was okay if you could recap just a little bit of your background and what got you to think about and write a book of this.
Yeah, no problem. I background in the book, SOCIOMOM, My Story of Truth, Terror, Truth, and Triumph, it's been a lifetime in the making there. I grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia in poverty as the son of a diagnosed sociopath. My mother that was abused beginning as an infant and it was so bad at age 4 that I actually dissociated and kind of just existed through life and didn't really remember any of these details until late 40s, where I had a bit of a conflict with a person in management there that turned out that ended up being just someone that was like mom in her mannerisms and looks, and it just triggered me, brought up all of this stuff, ended up going through a lot of therapy, EMDR and things, and recovering memories and skills and working through a process to heal over the course of a number of years, finding my mental health and some spiritual health. And then right after doing that was put to the test as because of her poor health and drug choices and things to become her primary caregiver for the last decade of her life. So the book, after going through all of this process and all the years of working through all of this stuff there, I wrestled with, do I really want to put this out there for the world to see, and kind of landed on that while I'm, wasn't keen on doing that myself, my hope in writing this, which took about 4.5 years to go through a process of doing this, realized that that it's probably the best thing to do during COVID was working with a friend that's a ghostwriter to continue looking at this stuff, just doing some interviews and things to talk it out after a decade of therapy, still trying to work the kinks out on this, so to speak. And she's like, Kevin, you really need to share this story. So I went on through that process. I've put that out there because I want the message. It's not about as much my story and being raised by a sociopath and having to care for him. That's, a story in itself, but I really want the audiences that read the book to realize, regardless of your background circumstances, you can overcome anything if you want different and better and try different and better. So
it's been a direction for you. You said that this didn't really come out into your 40s. What were you functioning? Were you operating? And then all of a sudden it came back to you? Or how did you experience the remembrance?
It all came back. I never really felt comfortable around family. I got out of Dodge, so to speak, as soon as I could. Threw myself into work, was very successful in a consulting at a Fortune 5 company, and climbing the ladder and doing all of those things, but never really felt connected to everybody. I just really was just kind of existing. I refer to myself in the book as kind of like the Terminator, like a cyborg, just kind of reading the room and trying to blend. So I knew something wasn't right, had some struggles with alcohol and other things, trying to rest and just fit in and do things. But just the triggering came, in the late 40s there, like I said, when this new manager came in, and I never really gave, too much thought to who I work for. I was just always in that hyper vigilant, successful, award-winning mode there, but something just visceral about that tapped into that, which was so unusual for me because I really never got tied up emotionally into stuff there. So I more existed, Richard, through those years, and then this started to unravel, and then realized that it was a whole lot there, and it took a lot of work to get going and moving forward.
What is a sociopath? What are the hallmarks of someone that is?
Yeah, and it's a buzzword. She was diagnosed during the last 10 years in my care. She unraveled, and I got her in front of a geriatric psychiatrist, and it was quite an ordeal with her in the room and all, but she went through the whole DSM things on that. And while those, phrases are used, secularly, a true sociopath is someone that's like a Ted Bundy or someone that's born without empathy. They're very charismatic and charming and can get people to do whatever they want. And what they want or what they need is where their world exists. They really don't have that empathy or connection psychologically to see that, right and wrong. It's just what their needs are and how to achieve it and at any cost. And that's the true, high level definition of her. And she also was diagnosed with extreme narcissism, which is, again, heightened self-worth and about themselves. So she used that over the years to kind of manipulate and get around not only me as a child, but then took me doctor shopping to Munchausen type treatments and things, and just manipulate people around him to keep him away. But a sociopath, in short, is just someone that truly lacks empathy, like Ted Bundy's of the world that just thought, well, what they were doing was justified in their mind, and they're not wired to make that connection.
What's the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath?
A sociopath is more self-voted in there, where a psychopath is more rage-filled and going to, out in a mission there. A sociopath just lacks it, but just sees their world. Both of them see their world through the lens of delusion. They're just a little delineated in how they carry out. A sociopath may not have that compulsion, where psychopaths are more likely to harm and kill directly than sociopaths. They both have that traits in them. A sociopath, especially one like my mother with narcissism, they kind of, it's about them and being and achieving what they want at any cost. And that cost could lead to harm, where a psychopath is truly not wired, and they're wired into where they have more of an aggressive feel and harm there. Now, I'm not a clinical psychiatrist or psychologist, but that's from my understanding and reading and learning about it, that's kind of the bridge between the two, Richard.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So what would happen if, I don't know, a 10-year-old kid, he was playing outside, he falls down, scraped his knee really badly, he was bleeding, and one of his parents was a sociopath. I hope this is okay to ask, but, if that kid, for instance, came in and said, I'm hurting and bleeding, and what would a sociopath do versus a regular parent?
Well, there's zero nurturing wired into a sociopath there. They exist in their existence and their deluded reality of their self-worth and importance. So things like that would not get the traditional, mother nurturing. You think about the person you would, you trust the most as your mother who gave birth to you. That person isn't wired to nurture or give any empathy. So in that scenario, it would be, why did you do it? Oh, you messed up the genes. For example, I talk about in the book where my brother and I, we would, get like young children, you'd get out play and tear a hole in your knees. She put in and sewn in sandpaper into the knees and was quite proud of the fact that that would keep us off our knees, because if you got down, you would skin your knees until they would bleed. And she took her joy in solving a problem versus seeing the empathetic side.
Feels crazy. You had to become her caretaker. What was that like? That's like beyond Stockholm syndrome. It seems like, I had to care for the person that hurt you is hard.
Yeah, after going through all of that and, getting my mental health straight, and I did find a spiritual component in that, and I do advocate that life is kind of a tripod. You got to have a mental, physical, and spiritual balance, and whatever that works for you. I don't advocate for any type of therapy or any type of theology, but you do have to have, some sort of balance to be able to manage and move through life. But finding that out, it truly was terrifying. I had been through years of EMDR, which is a more deeper helping unlock the subconscious type of therapy compared to traditional talk therapy. And after getting involved with her, it stirred a lot, in me, and a visceral frustration and anger of having to get into that, where I actually had to re-enter therapy at a whole different level to go through that. It was like playing 3D chess with someone. Sociopaths in general, my mother was highly intelligent and manipulative at that point, so she would work the doctors, the systems, and having to it was really good versus evil chess battle to keep her being able to stay in a facility somewhere and not get kicked out, which we had multiple problems with that, and find a balance and still try to live my life. It was truly an excruciating and frustrating journey up until the bitter end. Her final words on deathbed there, when I'd ask her if there's anything she wanted to get right or get off of her chest there, about any of the things that had happened. And she was just, I don't know what the hell you were talking about, Kevin. I was a perfect mother and everyone just loves me. Those were the final words she uttered. But it was an opportunity each day to do that. We try to find, from a spiritual aspect. I think some spiritual advice I got from a pastor when you talk about what it was like to help me there. I talk about this and it helped me get through. He said, Kevin, she didn't serve the role of a mother, so you don't have to serve society's role of a traditional son. But what if you saw someone, an elderly person that fell down on the sidewalk when you're walking down the street there, would you walk to the other side of the street and leave them there? Would you help them up? He said, take that type of approach. And that kind of helped me stay between the ditches, so to speak, Richard. But it was very difficult, to say the least.
So what made you write up this story? Was your ghostwriter's help? What was that thought process like?
Well, as we started, like I said, the ghostwriter thing was more not to write a book. We were just done the, decade worth of 2 different sessions of EMDR, understand everything cognitively, remembered what I need to remember, building skills that I never learned. Because when you do have dissociation, like I did at age 4, you stop developing some of these common skills that you would growing up as, an child and adolescent and young adult. So I was still struggling after her funeral, and we hit into COVID there. So we just started talking through. She'd ask some questions about it, and I would kind of talk through the stories and all that. And she was quite moved and, horrified and moved. And was like, Kevin, and you need to consider telling this. And so then I took and went back and got it in a framework and wrote it out, and still struggled with what I would publish it right up until it was published just, last June, so a few months back. But I wrestled with what to do with that, and I also realized that there are a lot of people out there white-knuckling in life, and whether they're self-medicating through drinking or drugs or going to the doctor, whether they're worked with youth and young people getting misdiagnosed at ADD or depression and anxiety and other things and getting on medications and not finding the true root cause of trauma. All I learned in my therapy, Richard, I realized that there's a lot of folks out there not sure how to move forward and keep doing the same thing and hoping for different results. So that's where I decided to put this out there to hopefully reach those folks to realize that there is a way forward, and you can make that happen and live the life you deserve.
What happened right after she passed? Like, what was your reaction mentally? Were you relieved or sad? Or?
I thought I would be relieved on that, but it's still stuck. It just was surreal when you start looking back, and when I was going through and writing this book out, even though I did a lot of this in therapy, when you go back and realize what was taking place, all the dysfunction, all of the pain and the impacts of things it had on, I thought I would feel a bit of relief, but honestly, I didn't, and that's why I went into, like I said, doing some of these COVID-based Zoom meeting interviews with my friend, the ghostwriter, to try to continue to talk and process that, because while I got it from a therapeutic side, it was just still lingering there, like, I don't know if you've ever, had a smell or something that kind of lingered in your car or something, even though you sprayed and done everything you can, but there's still that smell that wouldn't go away. It kind of was that in a physical, literal sense.
What do you mean? Were you afraid that she would come back somehow, or you just didn't feel, you felt like this is just burden?
I didn't feel the burden of taking care of her, but it's just the totality, especially when I'd done those last 10 years, the weight of that, just had to realize that I had to take and reflect and process that. I mentioned in the book that part of that dissociation that helped me through those years is a superpower, because you could kind of just plow through and just dig in and go. And that's kind of what I did those last 10 years, taking care of her. But once she was gone, that guard came down, and I had to, process and face the reality of what is actually taking place through the totality of life. And then in the last 10 years, those, psychological and physical chess battles with her to kind of keep things moving up until her death there and have some semblance of normalcy there. Put it in perspective, my father, who wasn't my biological father, I found out later in this journey, went into the hospital and passed on the same floor that she was 2 floors above in the locked psychiatric ward. And when I went upstairs to tell her she passed, she was watching TV and eating pudding from her meal. The nurse and I told her. She paused, and I said, "You got anything to say? You okay, Mom? You got anything to say?" She said, "This is good pudding," and went back to start eating her pudding, and that's all she had to say. The nurse kind of looked at me and I am her, and that's the kind of stuff, Richard, what I mean after the fact, you kind of realize, wow, how can someone that was like 40-some years married to a person, the reaction, "This is good pudding." Those kind of things is what I mean, kind of having to, not that she's coming back, but just the totality of realizing what I was up against and dealing with.
So what happened was the book came out. What kind of feedback did you get?
Yeah, I had some really tremendous feedbacks there. So any of your listeners out there, I've got, mysociomom.com is my website, but Goodreads, if you wanted to learn about it before you try it out there, I've got over 100, almost, I think just virtually all 5-star reviews that are people that they've felt seen, understood, and, validated. So what I was hoping for, I'm really getting back in the reviews, Richard, of people that's resonating with them. There's a lot of people out there. And as I talk about and do speaking engagements, you don't have to be raised by a sociopath, but trauma is trauma. It could be a 30-second event that can stick with you in your mind and body, just the way something is being, decade plus abuse from a sociopath, physical, mental, and sexual, like I had. So the feedback has been tremendous, that people are feeling seen and heard, and some are talking about making their own move to try different and better. So it's quite validating in that regard, because that's why I did this, not to sell a lot of books. It's nice that people want to read it, but that's what I wanted to do. So good feedback.
And really, one second. So what is as the publication of the book now, reconcile things? Or are you counseling other people, or what has it done for you?
One, besides, it can help me propel forward in my journey of being able to reintegrate, emotionally and into society, and realizing, I can move forward with purpose. It's also, I'm not specifically a counselor or doing whatever, but I've done some speaking engagements. I'm part of the, some of the local things of NAMI, the National Association of Mental Health, and speak and do things to try from a street secular side there, not from a mental health professional, just to speak out, to help bring awareness and help draw people forward so they can lay down their medications or self-medications and dysfunctions they have in life and try different and better. So it's rewarding. The journey's just getting started well. There's a lot of good things happening. They're even looking at processing this book into an unscripted documentary or limited run things as well there, because of the uniqueness of the story. But it's really helped me spend a lifetime of not truly doing anything but run fast as you can kind of mindset, and not feeling connected with myself or others. That integration and well-being is taking its next step in the journey beyond just the therapy. So that's kind of where I'm at today, and hope to continue to share that word with others out there, that you can overcome anything if you try different and better.
And the best place to get the book is on Amazon, or is it?
Books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get books, Goodreads, any of those places. Also, you can get it directly through my website, mysociomom.com. It's a link to Amazon there, but anywhere you get books, it's Kindle, in paperback, and the audiobook should be out and up there as well in the next couple of weeks. It was, written in my, read in my voice. So that'll be available very shortly as well.
Okay, very good. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me there, and I appreciate all that you're doing with the podcast and all the different areas that you're doing as well there, Richard. It's very fascinating. And last thing I'd just like to say to anybody out there is a couple things. One, mental health is health. And if you're struggling, you can't do it alone. Go find and talk to someone and try something different and better. And for those that aren't struggling but maybe around someone, we all seen people that are wearing a leg brace or a cast, Richard, and we go and we want to help them out or take them a meal or do whatever. But when someone's struggling and they isolate or maybe a little cranky or aloof there, look for that hidden leg brace or cast and ask a couple questions of how they're doing, if there's any way you can support them there, because you may be surprised. Those few words to someone could be the difference from them finding different better or falling backwards into some other form of self-harm or either worse. So that's the message to all your listeners out there for me, and I do appreciate your time, Richard.
Well, very good.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
Thank you for listening to the Good Question Podcast. Please email support@thegoodquestionpodcast.com if you have any referrals to great guests for us to interview. Visit thegoodquestionpodcast.com to hear more interviews. And please help us spread the word by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to this podcast.